Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of SafeDefend Live. I am Phil Nichols, joined today with Mr. Jeff Green. Jeffrey, founder of SafeDefend. Welcome.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's good always to have you on, Jeff. I know last week we were blessed with Mr. Dan Cole. Dan, it was employee number 3 or 4, I think, at SafeDefend. Been around for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
My good lifelong friend, does a lot of good work with SafeDefend. Dr. V, we've had him on the road, man. He's been busy doing all this training.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to keep him hopping as much as possible, spreading the word. He's doing a great job on that end. And it has definitely been a busy time on the training side of things for SafeDefend.
Yeah. You guys are a lot of innovation going on at SafeDefend. Seems like every week there's another layer being added. And so very, very exciting times at SafeDefend. Today, I'd like to, we were talking briefly about there's kind of 3 key areas. You got internal response, external response, and then prevention and preparation. So you want to mind walking us kind of through that and what that looks like at SafeDefend and how that can benefit everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate to use the word formula, but in many ways, this really is a formula for best practice response when you're trying to protect your business, when you're trying to protect your employees, when you're trying to protect that school building. You really need to focus on 3 key areas, and all of these will make a difference regardless of really what that threat is and who that threat is. So we talk frequently on this show, and really as part of our mission is the left of bang and right of bang, and how that all fits in, and we've had thorough discussions on that on here. But what it really comes down to is from the right of bang side of things, which is when something bad happens, you have to have that ability to have an internal response, which are all the people that are in that moment. How are they going to respond? What do they have for training? What do they have access to that is going to put them in the best position to get out of that situation safely and alive? Then you have your external response, which is your law enforcement, your first responders, your emergency responders. How do we get them there? How do we get them the information they need? What can we do to make sure that their response is the most effective it can be? And then before, God forbid anything bad would ever happen, you have to have that preventative side, that preparation side, which includes the training, the threat assessment, the vulnerability assessment, having your team go through training. So, when it comes time for them to have to make that internal response to that threat, they're in the best position possible to do it. And it really is, I hate to say that simple, but that really is the path to making sure we can mitigate the damage that can be done by somebody coming in. Having that ability to work on the preventative side, understanding what your threats are, and understanding how to manage when something threatening might be coming your way is critical. But then if it turns into that moment where lives are at stake, you've got to be able to respond internally for sometimes 11, maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
11 minutes really is kind of unusual, as it's been almost I wouldn't say a theme, but there have been many of our active shooter situations in schools and businesses where 11 minutes has kind of been the key number. And so, by no means is that an absolute, but that's a long time. That's a long time where you have to manage that crisis from the internal perspective. Yeah. So then you got to address that external perspective. How do law enforcement know where to go? How do they know to be notified that it's even going on? How can we get them to the right location as quickly as possible? All of those factors really come together. And if you put that model together, if you take that approach where you're addressing that prevention, that training, that preparation, and then God forbid, have that preparation and that training transfer into how you're going to respond internally, and that ability to get the law enforcement and those responders there on that external response, it is absolutely going to make a difference.
So, Jeff, walk me through this for everybody that's listening and those that'll see this later. What does that look like in application as
Sure.
far as, so if somebody's wanting to say, yep, we hear all that, we agree, we need to have internal, external prevention, preparation, what does that look like in as far as time investment, over what period of time? Is that something that's sequential? Is it something that we got to continuously do? Walk us through kind of that.
Absolutely. So the immediate need, right, out of the gate, whether you've done anything, whether you've done a little bit, whether you've done a lot, absolutely need to get in a position to have a threat and vulnerability assessments. Those are separate. Threat assessments really identify who your threats are. Vulnerability assessments identify where your vulnerabilities are in your facility, your location. And then also the preparation and the prevention training, getting people to understand, one, what the best practices and how to respond if the situation takes place, but also being in that position to look for indicators of potential threats, of potential violence. What's an employee that's under duress saying that might be potentially going to be fired, or what is that student saying sitting in that high school classroom, or what are they drawing? All those factors really contribute on that left side. So that comes down to the threat assessment, the vulnerability assessment, and the training side of things. That out of the gate, those are basically three separate paths that you can take, but that is a very easy and very effective starting point to get that undergoing. We've got one of the top, if not the top, expert in the country that's out doing training and continually developing our training. We can get him to your location, from everything from a 2-hour session all the way to multi-day sessions to really be able to do that. And it is incredibly cost effective when you look at the benefit that you get. We could charge probably 2, 3, 4 times more than we're charging with the expert that we have. Yeah. But our goal is not to only bring our message to those that can afford a substantial amount of money to come to have an expert of Greg's level come out and do it. We want to make sure that we can get the message out, save and protect, and put companies in the best position, schools in the best position to God forbid, if they ever have to face it, be able to face it. So we wanted to really make sure that our message is affordable. But there is nothing in the country that is going to be as effective as the message that we can send. When you start shifting into the response side of things, that's where that training really, really kicks in on the internal response. How are you going to respond when you hear those gunshots, when you hear those sounds that are putting your life in danger or lives of others in danger? What can you do to get the message out as quickly as possible? The notification side of things of SafeDefend is as rapid as any solution that's out there, and is more effective than any other solution that's out there. So getting that notification out so you can start managing this crisis, it's all wrapped in that internal response, utilizing your training, utilizing tools that are available to you. How can you put yourself in the best possible position to save yourself and others in this type of scenario? That's all wrapped in that internal response side of things. And then with a system like SafeDefend coming up, that external response becomes incredibly effective. If you've got an SRO on your campus, we can get them to the exact location. They'll be notified within seconds, however far away they are. They're going to be one of the first ones that are able to get there and take care of that situation. If you're in a private sector business, factory, whatever the case may be, you need law enforcement to not only get that information as quickly as possible, get there as quickly as possible, but get to the right spot as quickly as possible.
Right.
And that's that external aspect of the response that we bring to the table. Nobody else addresses all three of those key areas. Most of these companies that are out there have a little piece of one of those areas, but nobody really has applied the formula the way it needs to be applied, like SafeDefend does.
Yeah, I mean, that's obvious. I mean, Dr. Greg Vecchi, we've talked a lot off camera just on strategy and tactics. And of course, Dr. V's resume speaks for itself, and not just a resume of academia, but a resume of doing, which is very unique. Kind of makes him a unicorn in many ways, right? I mean, you'll have folks that are very focused from an academic standpoint, but maybe never application. But he has both. And I think one thing that he really shared a few weeks ago that really stuck with me is it's simple things like we always talk about gun violence, which is obviously a huge thing. But he said right at 40% of all situations are non-gun related. And so there's a huge percentage of incidents that we're not, I think, just psychologically aware of, right? We think of getting ready for one thing. We don't look at all the other ways that people can do harm. And I think that's important. But it sounds like it all starts with that assessment, right? That's a great jumping off place to go, just to find out where am I now, so you can then create a good scope of execution for yourself to go out and really start creating the safest environment you can.
Yeah, assessment and training. And they work very closely hand in hand together, honestly, because when we do develop training, we develop it based on your specific facility, your specific location. But having that ability to identify, where you're vulnerable in that facility, and this will encompass everything from, sometimes no cost fixes that can make a big difference, up to sometimes, there's recommendations for more expensive options. But if you understand where your vulnerabilities are within that location, you can start addressing them. Maybe you don't do it all at once, but you can start, as budgets allow, start fixing those things that are going to make a difference. And really that's what that vulnerability assessment really brings to the table. The threat assessment side of things are, who are your threats? In the school scenario, it's most likely a student, but that's not always the case. If you look at Covenant, if you look at Sandy Hook, if you look at Parkland, even though he was a former student, they're not necessarily sitting in those seats right now. So that you still have that external threat coming through, and being able to understand who puts your students, your employees at risk, can make a big difference in how you respond, as well as how you train. On top of that, you see more and more in the private sector. We're seeing more and more events. They don't tend to be as high on the mass casualty side of things as schools do, in a sense. But the frequency of those are increasing. At unbelievable rates. You're talking putting, even if you put 2, 3, 4 of your employees at risk because of this, that's substantial, not only from the aspect of, you want to protect all your employees, but it impacts every single employee in that facility when something bad happens, when something tragic takes place. So you've got to have that ability to understand where your vulnerabilities are, who your threats are, and then train based on those factors. And we can bring all that to the table.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you sharing that, walking us through that. Again, the internal response, external response, and then prevention and preparation. I think that's extremely important. I appreciate you sharing that. I know that if folks want to learn more about this, if they want to schedule a meeting, if they want to just have a conversation, tell the good folks how they can reach you.
Yep, absolutely. Always, someone's here always to answer the phone at 913-856-2800, or just jeff@safedefend.com.
Yeah, check them out, safedefend.com. Great people, headquarters out of beautiful Kansas City area. I always love coming up there. Great barbecue, great food, always a good time in Kansas City.
We do our best.
Now, what are you doing on a sidebar? The Chiefs, man, they're trading people. They're letting people go. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we just reload every year. We want to make sure we spread the wealth. We just sent Frank Clark to the Denver Broncos, and he's really effective.
Never seen the Chiefs let somebody go to Denver. They would.
Well, he's really effective come playoff time, so he won't be really have much of an impact against us. So we're not too worried by sending him to the Broncos. That's really gonna.
They got to figure out a quarterback situation in Denver still.
Yeah, they do. They got some challenges, but no, between the Chiefs and the Jayhawks, where my loyalties fall. We've
well, KU's a football school now.
Well, they always have been. They've just been kind of taking it easy for a while. They just no, yeah. Hey, I'll take I'll take 6 wins every year from the KU.
That's right. That's right. You get 6 wins as a head coach at KU. They're going to build a monument out in front of the stadium for you someday.
Absolutely. There'll be streets named after you. There'll be.
That's great. Well, Jeff, thank you very much, brother. It's always fun having you on with us. We appreciate you giving us the time, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Hey, sounds great. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, brother.
You bet. Take care.